Hola, bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta, y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor. Y saber qué programación es tu favorita. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir. Así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación.
¡Hola, mundo!
Muchas gracias.
Mi nombre es Rosalba Alonso, soy mamá de Nico. Nico es un niño que tiene discapacidad múltiple. Tiene parálisis cerebral, que trae un retraso psicomotor, microcefalia, además tiene epilepsia. Sus sentidos van madurando conforme él ha ido creciendo, más las terapias, sí ha ido mejorando. Cuando me enteré del diagnóstico de Nico, dije, ok, la terapia es importante, pero también estimularlo. A mí me gusta decir que es una combinación de muchas terapias. Nico ha llevado la terapia física y también ha llevado oromotora, pero también como esta parte de la música y de la natación. Para mí ha sido como la mezcla de esto. Siempre estar buscando cosas que él acepte y que le gusten. Al final del día es lo que le gusta y el chiste es que sea feliz y avance.
La discapacidad múltiple es la presencia de dos o más discapacidades en la misma persona. Pueden ser de tipo intelectual, mental, motriz, auditiva o visual. Es muy frecuente que las personas con discapacidad múltiple tengan dificultades para moverse, comunicarse y realizar actividades cotidianas, por lo que necesitan apoyo en muchas áreas de su vida, además de personas que les den amor y seguridad. Se ha observado que la estimulación sensorial en forma de música, pintura, exploración de texturas, olores y sabores ayuda a las personas con discapacidad múltiple a desarrollar sus capacidades y sobre todo les da la oportunidad de aprender cosas del mundo que los rodea y de interactuar con otras personas que los estimula a socializar y relacionarse.
A Nico le encanta comer. Le doy el primer bocado y si le gusta se emociona y ya les seguimos dando de comer. Le gusta salir a la calle y se emociona mucho. Y le gusta mucho estar en el coche. Entonces, como el movimiento en general siempre le ha gustado, entonces a Nico le gusta la música, comer y salir. Sobre todo mi forma de saber si le están gustando las cosas es con su reacción. Si veo que se emociona, entonces lo hacemos. Sé que la actividad le está gustando. Cuando estamos en una reunión y Nico se ríe y que nos estamos riendo todos y que Nico se ríe, me da como mucha alegría porque sé que está ahí. Su cosa favorita es la música. Empezamos a llevar a Nico a unas clases que se llaman matromúsica. El profesor tocaba el piano y los papás cantábamos con los niños y también hacíamos movimientos. Ahí fue cuando Nico empezó a reaccionar a la música. Los juguetes favoritos de Nico es cualquier juguete con ruido, pero tiene un juguete favorito en el mundo. Y no hemos podido encontrar otro juguete igual. Esta música es la que le gusta. Le gusta nadar. Cuando empezó con la natación, Nico empezó a mover más sus brazos. Es la emoción y no para de patalear. Cuando alguien en tu familia o tú tienes una discapacidad, se te abre un mundo diferente. Pasas desapercibido. Me gustaría que supieran que todos somos iguales. Todos podemos estar felices, todos podemos estar tristes. Nos gusta jugar, nos gusta comer. Hay niños como Nico que no pueden caminar o no pueden hablar, pero que aún así les gustan las caricaturas, les gustan los dulces, los chocolates y les gusta estar con su mamá, con su papá y nadar y el sol. Y tal vez no pueden correr, pero les gusta escuchar los ruidos de otros niños, que no está mal acercarse a ellos, o sea, que tal vez los inviten a jugar, pero que sí, que todos son niños y a todos les gusta divertirse. Él es cool con la vida.
Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006. A continuación, Footless Joe, más allá de una amputación. Presenta Joe Beckwith. Características de este programa. Audio en inglés, subtítulos en castellano.
Hello there, my beautiful, lovely, talented, and fabulous internet friends. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Footless Joe, where I am still Joe, and I am still missing a foot. Also, we have our co-host Sophie right here. If you watch real closely, you might even get to see Cakes the cat, who is curled up right behind her. Today, I wanted to take just a few minutes to answer for you that burning question. You know, the one you wake up at night thinking about. You probably went to sleep last night wondering who is ever going to answer this question for me. Does anyone know? And that question, my dear friends, is how much do amputated body parts weigh? Specifically, how much did my foot weigh when they permanently relocated it to a new home that was not attached to my body? That home was the incinerator. So there's kind of this two-part question that I get from time to time. Sometimes people will ask me, do you know how much your leg weighed when they cut it off? And the second question is, how can you accurately calculate your weight if part of your body is missing? So we're gonna tackle both of those questions today. Before we dive into this fascinating and actually is pretty interesting subject, I would love it if you take just a moment to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and if you're feeling extra generous, if you want to ring that notification bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video, that would be fantastic. So, how much do amputated body parts weigh? Let's dive in. This is a Halloween prop that I got about 2 years ago. I used it for one other video. I figured I might as well make use of the like $8 I spent on it and put it in another video. I also love how they like actually have bones coming out of the top of it because that's kind of gross. Also, side note, as I was taking this out for the video today, I put it on this bed, and when I came back, Sophie was like guarding it. She thought it was a chew toy. It is not a chew toy, and she's very sad. Very occasionally, I will make the joke that if you want to lose weight quick, I do have a surefire scheme for you that is not a scam, and that is to cut off your leg, because you definitely do lose weight. You lose weight when you lose a body part. It's actually surprising to me how much different body parts weigh. Like, you don't think about your foot really being that heavy, you don't think about your hand really being that heavy, but they weigh a little bit more than we think. So like I said, let's start with the question of how much did my foot weigh when they removed it from my body. So though there is a scientific way to actually calculate how much body parts from different genders might weigh, I can tell you from my own personal experience, I did weigh myself before the surgery and I weighed myself after the surgery to get like a general idea of how much this body part being removed from me, like how much of my body they actually cut off. And this is gonna vary for absolutely everybody, like your height, your age, your weight, your fitness level, absolutely everything. But for me, I'm not a particularly large person, and so when they took my foot to its new home of the incinerator, from my best guesses and calculations, it weighed about 7 or 8 pounds. I was told that it could be up to like 15, which is actually kind of a lot considering that like what they actually removed was like this right here. I'm pretty sure that was about 5% of what I actually weighed at that time, so like 5% of my body was removed. Now that is my not entirely scientific way of calculating that. However, there is mathematics that we can use to determine how much body parts weigh. So let's take a look at this limb segments chart. I never want limbs to be segmented, do you? I sure don't. The table you see in front of you lists the weight of the human body limb segments as a weight percentage of the total human body. Okay, so for a woman, I am a woman, it says that the foot is 1.29% and the leg is 4.81, but it was all of my foot and ankle and part of my leg, so we're gonna say 3%. All right, let's take a look. At the time of my amputation, I weighed like 120 pounds. Remember basic math, Joe. If we're putting those two if we're putting those two numbers together, let's say it's about 3%. So 120 times 0.03 says it should weigh about 3.6 pounds. I don't think that's accurate. I would like to contest your math, aprpros.com. Doesn't matter that they probably know what they're talking about and I don't. In my own personal experience, it did weigh a little bit more than that. However, it's also entirely possible that I did lose some weight like being in the hospital, but I don't necessarily think so. So allow me to interject just a quick story here. One of the most bizarre experiences I have ever had since my amputation was the first time they let me take my cast off and I tried to lift up my leg, you have no idea how adjusted you are to like what your various body parts weigh until they're gone. Because lifting up my leg for the first time when there wasn't a big cast on it, which added a lot of weight, it felt like what was left of my leg was just gonna like fly over my shoulder because it felt so freaking light. That was definitely something that took some adjustment, and like getting up or moving around or whatever, being like, you are not swinging nearly as much weight on that limb as you used to. Now, another question that often comes up in this conversation is, well, then how much does your prosthetic leg weigh? Like, do they try to make it match the weight that you lost? To my knowledge, that is not something that prosthetists actively try to do. However, in my case, it's not that far off. So my prosthetic leg here, right here, this little puppy, Sunshine is what we call her because I'm walking on sunshine. I'd belt it a lot louder, but my husband's on a work call and I don't want a nice work associate hearing his wife belting I'm walking on sunshine for no discernible reason in the background. I just got done weighing it to make sure that I was accurate on this. Weighs 3.5 pounds exactly. So with the sleeve on, with all the parts and pieces where they are, it is only 3.5 pounds. It's actually kind of surprising to me considering how many metal parts and pieces there are in this. That and the actual socket, which is like carbon fiber. But look at that, there's like a significant amount of metal and carbon fiber and cool stuff in here. And it's only 3.5 pounds, which is pretty cool. When I was first getting used to walking on my prosthesis, I remember thinking how heavy it felt. Now it doesn't feel heavy at all because I've adjusted to it, but it's funny how your body feels different things. Like the weight being on my leg of a prosthetic leg felt so much heavier than my actual foot, even though it wasn't. I was thinking about this the other day and I wonder if this is one of the reasons why it's a lot harder to build muscle on the amputated side of your body. Like for me, if you take a look at my two legs, like my two thighs, right? One is significantly larger and more muscly than the other one. The other one looks like it has skipped leg day permanently, even though I like work out on both sides of my body. But I have a theory that is backed up by absolutely no science that perhaps one of the reasons why my leg will basically always be smaller than my other leg, along with a lot of other reasons, is because I'm literally not carrying as much weight on that side of my body as I'm walking around. The second half of the question that I posed at the beginning of this video is, how do you really find out your true weight? Like what you actually weigh, like on a body mass index chart, for instance. In the United States, I'm not actually that sure about the rest of the world, but BMI is a pretty commonly used metric to like see if you're in a healthy category for weight or something like that. To be fair, it is not the most accurate thing out there. However, it is one measurement that people use. So if a doctor were to weigh me without my prosthetic leg, like my body as it normally is, and did a BMI calculation based on that, it would not be accurate compared to other people in that BMI calculation because I'm missing a part of myself. So I did find a site that detailed out the math of how to find my true BMI. So for this calculation, let's use the number 120. Like if I weighed 120 right now without my leg, how would we make that into a proper BMI calculation? Let's find out, my friends. Visual Veggies software. This seems like a very reputable source for this information, wouldn't you agree? When assessing an amputee's weight, the estimated weight of the limb needs to be taken into account. Absolutely. One thing that's a little bit annoying about this is there aren't BMI calculators for amputees. Like I actually have to do the math myself. Are you saying I have to use my brain? I stand corrected. We don't have to use our brains today, folks. They do have a BMI calculated for people with limb differences on the amputeecoalition.org. Oh, this is so much easier than the calculation I was about to do. Fantastic. Let's use English calculations. I am 5'5" and a half. Let's use the 120 number, which is what I was when I had my amputation. Right leg, below knee, I would have a BMI of 20.6. One thing worth noting, if you were running like BMI calculations for an amputee, I'm pretty sure you'd want to do it without their prosthetic limb because that is going to be adding weight. Different prosthetics are going to weigh different amounts, obviously. For instance, I have a friend who has a computerized ankle, meaning it like moves on its own. It's really cool. That is going to weigh a lot more than my ankle, which is just carbon fiber pieces. So if you're doing any kind of calculations like that, make sure that you're taking your actual body weight sans your prosthetic leg. All right, that's pretty boring. Now that we know what my BMI would be through this handy dandy little calculator, here are the steps we would have taken had I wanted to use my brain. So it's basically using the same kind of percentage calculation that we saw previously when estimating how much of your body was removed. So for a below knee amputation, ironically, they say it's 3.26% of your total body mass. My guess was 3%. That was a totally random guess, but I'm still gonna feel smart for guessing pretty close to it. So basically what they're doing is they're gonna add back that percentage onto your current weight and then calculate your BMI. It's actually a pretty easy calculation. I don't know why I was intimidated of it. It's been a very long time since I did math. So there we have it, folks. If you ever wondered how much a severed foot weighs, I don't know why you would, but if you have, you now have the answer. Mine weighed between like 7 and 8 pounds, best I could tell. It might have been a little bit less than that, but I'm pretty sure, based on my calculations and my experience and weight as I continued to heal, it was right around there. And if you ever need to know how to calculate the body mass index, the BMI of an ABT, we now know that we don't have to use math. There's a calculator for that. I'm gonna make a guess that no one woke up this morning actually thinking or wondering about these things, but sometimes it's pretty fun when YouTube delivers to us things we never actually thought about. So I hope I've answered your questions. Let me know if you have additional ones in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you. Gigantic thank you goes out to all of my patrons over on Patreon for continuing to support me over there. I truly appreciate it. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's basically it's an app, it's a platform, it's a community where you can support the creators whose content or message you care about. We have a really cool community over there, and in return for supporting the Footless Joe community and what I'm doing here, you get things like early access to some videos, polls on things like what we colored my running blade socket, cute videos of puppies, and more. So if you're interested, check it out, link on screen or down below. But with that being said, I just wanted to share some news with you guys that I just found out, and it's obviously a topic that I'm pretty emotional about. What I'm about to talk about is something that I've been personally affected by in a variety of ways. I never experienced addiction, but I've been on the medications I'm about to talk about for years, and I know people who have been deeply affected by this. I think pretty much everyone knows someone who has battled addiction or who has been lost to addiction. Over the years, I've made a number of videos about the war on drugs, about the opioid epidemic, but specifically about the fact that this was manufactured, that there are people and companies who are directly responsible for spreading misinformation so they could get rich, for lying about the addictive properties, for miseducating doctors, for miseducating the public, for pushing for long-term use of opioids and stronger opioids when that was not medically necessary, for super messed up deals with pharmacies, and for so many things. Drug addiction is a topic that breaks my heart. It's a complicated thing that affects so many families and people. And one of the biggest companies, Purdue Pharma, I've mentioned them before, was really at the forefront of making Oxy in particular a problem. And the things that they did were so abhorrent and so knowingly wrong. Quite literally, in the literal sense of that word, lied to people about the addictive properties of this medicine that they were making and tried to get more people on it because it made them rich. And they've like lost court cases and had to pay friggin' fines, but fines that were not actually that much money for a company of their size. Like, oh no, we lost $600 million. What are we gonna do? I guess we'll take another vacation on our private jet and cry into our mimosas in the morning. But I was sitting downstairs just now. I'm not doing a good job of getting through this video. I was sitting downstairs just now and Brian handed me his phone with this news article. Purdue Pharma has pled guilty to a number of criminal charges, agreed to pay $8 billion towards opioid treatment, and also they're closing down. And that, my friends, is some of the best news in my mind in 2020 so far. I feel like very rarely do we see actual justice. And I am not going to make the argument that this is actual justice, but I think it's the closest thing that we can get to it. I don't know all the ramifications. I don't know all of the details of this deal or how they're closing down or when or any of that. But to have a massive business that has billions of dollars actually be held responsible for its criminal, insidious actions, I am so glad to read that. And the thing is, none of that is going to bring back the hundreds of thousands of people who have died, but maybe it will be a drop in the bucket towards lowering rates of addiction in the future, towards providing people with good resources to get help. Like I said, this is a topic that I am really passionate and emotional about. My heart shatters for people and for families who have had to deal with addiction and opioid addiction. I was on these medications, I was on Oxy and other varieties of this for just about a decade for chronic pain. Pretty recently, which I documented in some videos here on this channel, I was able to get off of all of that, which was amazing. And I am incredibly lucky and grateful that during my time on these drugs, I never experienced addiction. I always had good supervision and good people around me, and tried to make sure that there were checks and balances in place in my mind with people around me when I was taking these really dangerous medications, because they are really dangerous. And one of the other direct or indirect I would say direct, consequences of their actions was that getting medications that someone actually needs became exponentially more difficult. And I saw this firsthand. I saw and I experienced all the hoops that I had to jump through, that people who I knew had to jump through to stay on these medications that were the only way that I could get out of bed for many years because I hurt so much. Getting access to pain medications that are legitimately needed was made so much more difficult because of the actions of companies like this. If you're a chronic pain patient and you're on some kind of medication, I know that you know what I'm talking about. If you're interested in this topic at all, please pick up a copy of American Pain. It's a book written a few years ago that really details the beginning of all of this, and there are a lot of people involved and a lot of people responsible, but Purdue Pharma was at the friggin' top of that list. I don't know, I just wanted to get that information out there and say thank freaking God, it's about damn time. And I hope that those who are responsible are continued to be held responsible for their criminal and horrible actions, and I hope that people who are dealing with addiction are able to find the healing and the help that they need. I will continue to be an advocate for that. The shame and guilt and blame that we put as a society on people who are dealing with addiction breaks my heart. Nobody wants to become an addict. There are so many factors at play, and to watch the story unfolding in my country of very large, very powerful, very conniving businesses creating this problem, lying to people about this problem, and then to see those people who have died from this or who were battling this be shamed and blamed without any accountability held to those who freaking created this in the first place was heartbreaking to me. Yes, addiction is a deeply personal issue, but it's also systemic, and also with some of these medications it has been created understanding that this is what would happen, understanding that people would die, understanding that people would lose years of their lives and lose friendships and family members and so much to these drugs so people could get rich. It's too little, too late, but at least something was done, and I feel a little bit silly for getting so emotional over this, but this is something that I've been having conversations about and looking into for half a decade now, and to see the company that in my mind is one of the absolute worst be closed down, forced to pay billions of dollars, and be held criminally responsible for their actions. Hallelujah. Okay, I'm gonna end this video here. Bit of a different video than I normally do. The audio quality is trash because my husband is taking a shower, but this is the window I had to film as soon as I got this information. I wanted to get it out there. Thanks for listening if you made it this far. Thanks for making it through all my emotional moments. I'm really glad that progress is being made on this issue, and I hope that it continues. I hope that people who need help continue to be able to find access to it. If you're someone watching this and you're battling addiction right now, or you know someone who is, I've put some resources in the description box down below to reach out to. And with that being said, thank you for listening. I don't have my normal closeout because my hard drive died, and I lost like the music and the intro file and all of that, which I will get back hopefully. Story that has absolutely nothing to do with the content of this video. When I was growing up as a child, I religiously parted my hair down the middle. Like, this was a part of my personality, until one day someone told me that it wasn't cool to do this anymore. No, in fact, it hadn't been cool for years, and no one told me. So then I started, you know, doing the hair swoosh that we all know and love. And I've recently been informed that this has now gone out of style. So I thought I'd try to be trendy today and see what I think about this. It's been a long time since Middle Part Joe has made an appearance, but we're back, baby. Where I am Joe, and I am still missing a human foot, a meat foot. I have a foot, but it's plastic. Also, it gets holes in it, which is kind of weird. I don't know, does your foot get holes in it? I really hope not. So one of the questions that I used to get constantly, especially before I had my prosthetic leg, is what do amputees do with the other shoe? Because people could very clearly see, oh, I caught my hair, that I only had one foot, so what did I do with my right shoe? Like, did I just chuck it out? Did I donate it? Is there perhaps some kind of amputee shoe exchange that I participate in? My answer to that question, I actually made a whole video about this a while ago, right up here, is generally speaking, for most below knee amputees, for most above knee amputees, we still need a whole pair of shoes. We need the two shoes because many of us use prosthetic legs. Now, that is not true for everybody. There are some people who choose not to use prosthetics. There are some people who prosthetics simply don't work for because of medical reasons or pain. But even a fake rubber foot needs a shoe to walk around in public. So my answer back then was, I do need both shoes. However, even I can see in the viewfinder that these are like different colors because I walked with one foot for so long before I had my prosthetic leg that like you can tell which one's worn. However, recently some of my circumstances have changed and I realized I am indeed in need of a single shoe, specifically a single running shoe. So let's talk about how I got that one single shoe. Before we continue on, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, maybe that like button, if you're feeling extra generous, hitting that bell notification so you get notified when I upload new videos or go live, that would be fantastic. So what I have in front of me here that I have not opened yet because I saved it for this video, and yes, I am very excited about this, is hopefully a single shoe that will work well for me. But why would I need this? Many of you guys know that I recently got a running blade that I am so freaking excited to bring home. I've got a couple more days until I can actually like hold it in my hands and go for a jog, or really start learning to run. You gotta start slow. And something that my friend Annika pointed out is that when you are running as an amputee, you only need one running shoe because you can't really put a shoe on your running blade. So as soon as I realized this, I knew that I was gonna have to find a way to get a single running shoe, mostly because the only athletic shoes I have like a big old hole in the toe. I'll take care of it eventually, but this would be no good for running. So when I realized that I was indeed going to be in need of one single shoe, I thankfully thought back to a video I made a couple months ago in which I talked about how Zappos, the shoe and clothing company, recently announced that as part of their adaptive clothing and shoe line, for many brands, they would now be selling shoes one by one, no longer by pair. And so I thought I would see how this actually works. I gave it a shot. I ordered a single shoe online, which is a little weird. At checkout, the list of options is crazy long because it's like 7 women's right side, 7 women's left side. And I had to be very conscious about which shoe I was choosing. But without further ado, let's check this out. Also, I don't mean to be brandishing scissors at you. It's just that's accidentally what happened right there. My bad. I've never had a reason to buy running shoes before because I could never run, and that is changing, and that's really cool. So let's see how a single shoe comes packaged. So far, so normal. I'm really excited. Woo! Check it out, I ordered the right side. That was like the most important thing to me. Look at this pretty color. Oh my God, I have a running shoe. Not running shoes, a running shoe. Now, as I'm trying this on, I wanna make it clear, Zappos did not sponsor this video. I am not affiliated or partnered with them in any way. I just think what they're doing is really, really cool. And this fits freaking perfectly. Bam! Check that out, guys. One single glorious running shoe. This actually feels super comfy. I will write down in the description down below which shoe I got if anyone's interested in any running shoes. They're I just hit myself with shoelaces. And it is really cool that I didn't have to pay for a pair of running shoes when I really just needed one side. Like, that is really helpful budget-wise for those of us who do not need both sides. It's really cool that this is an option. And the other cool thing is when I initially heard about this, I wondered if it would just be like off-brand weird shoes. That was probably a weird thing for me to think, but not at all. They have brands like Nike and Brooks and all different kinds of things in their single shoe store and their adaptive clothing line in general. So check it out. Again, not affiliated. I'm just really excited about them. Now, speaking of Zappos, I had the awesome opportunity to sit down with the head of the adaptive department and hear a little bit more about the story behind adaptive clothing, adaptive shoes. It's actually really fascinating. If this is something that you feel like you just tune out for, I would encourage you to just listen to the next couple minutes because I think what they're doing is really, really awesome, and the reason why they're doing it is pretty fantastic. So without further ado, yes, I do think I'm pretty punny for coming up with that. I would like to introduce you to Dana Zumbo from Zappos.
There's no playbook. There was no resources really that were, that gave us enough information. And so we just started reaching out to organizations that served the disability communities.
Yeah.
I utilized my own, because I was part of the autism community, we sent surveys to all the families and just started asking questions. We talked with people with disabilities that were interested. Once we learned, and over the course of the last 5-6 years, we learned a lot. And, it's after the fashion show, brands started reaching out just curious. And that's all, like, that to me is music to my ears. They just want to ask. Yeah. And so we're mindful of creating a safe space for them to ask anything, because I think there is this, I don't want to say the wrong thing, or I don't know how to talk about it. And again, for us, it was a learning, we learned from people with disabilities. We learned from parents with children with disabilities. And so anytime we can help educate, we know that like that's the key. And so that's really how we started, I think, opening up the conversation with other brands. And it has been like so rewarding. It is even more important today because of everything that's happening and the conversations that we're having about inclusivity and diversity and disability. I think it's, something that is a natural, and we can help guide them in these discussions.
And I think that's what you mentioned is so important, because I think there's a lot of ignorance. I don't use that in a bad way. I mean, just someone simply being unaware, because people feel really uncomfortable asking questions because you're afraid you're going to say the wrong thing. I felt that with many things. I'm like, I'm just going to not say anything here because that could be offensive. I don't know if that's offensive, And so having a space where it's like, no, ask the thing that you're thinking about. I think that's so powerful.
We had a focus group. We brought all these people together with different disabilities, kids and adults. And we had interviews. The golden nugget of that I look at, this gem inside, is they saw that they only had to tweak things on some of the products, just very little.
Right.
It's like, instead of one zipper on one side, what if we put another one? And all of a sudden this shoe boot opens up wide, and it wasn't recreating the wheel. And the one thing that has come out loud and clear is we just want to wear what everybody else wears. Yeah. I don't want you to create something that doesn't look like a style that I would wear. And so I think that what Tommy did with their line, they did that. They looked at what products they were going to launch, and then they took the line and they added, the magnets and other things to help make it more accessible for more people.
There's so many aspects of daily life and conversation and going out somewhere that just are tiny little reminders of like, okay, this is different. Okay, I need to adapt here. Okay, and you get used to it. Obviously, like that's part of adapting to life and growing and learning. But the areas where you don't have to do that are so important and so refreshing. Like if there's an area of life where you're not reminded that something is a little bit different for you or a little bit more difficult or whatever, that's such a breath of fresh air, and it's really so much more powerful than I ever could have imagined it to be. And something like clothing that is really important. It's obviously something we use every day. You want to dress in like what you want to dress with. You want to present yourself how you want to present yourself, and to be able to do that in a similar fashion as you see around you and you might like is really powerful. I think that's incredible.
I can honestly say this is the most rewarding, if you want to call it work, because I truly don't. It's just so rewarding because I get to meet people like yourself and help change the conversation. And I know that in the long run, it's going to, really impact a lot of people.
Yeah, I know it is impacting a lot of people.
We need a lot more people, involved, from the brands to the organizations to people to all people. And I think, this is just the beginning, and I'm excited.
Thank you, Dana, so much for taking the time to speak with us. Being totally honest with you, before I lost my leg, I didn't really care about anything adaptive. I'd never had a reason to really think about it. And so it sounds on the surface kind of like a boring subject, but now being someone who needs these things and is involved in a community of people who need these things, it is incredible to see large companies making such an impact for good, making such an impact for change in a positive direction. I put some further links down below for you to check out should you feel so inclined. And if you want to know the full answer to what do amputees do with the other shoe, check out my full video linked down below. Not above, below. Don't do it. Don't do the hair swoosh. It's really hard for me to keep a middle part, guys, because I'm so used to just swooshing it to one side or the other. I'll be honest, when I put this down with my other shoes, I'm probably gonna have a few moments of like, where's the matching pair? I don't need another one. Stay tuned in the very near future to see me actually be able to break this in by actually running. I can't wait. Also, like I said, if you wanna hit that like button, it does help it get out to more people, and I'd appreciate it, but no pressure. A huge thank you to all of my patrons over on Patreon for making this and all of my videos possible. Your support is invaluable, and I am truly so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you. If you're interested in what Patreon is, I have put a link on screen, also down below. In short, it is a way to support the creators that you love and care about, and in return, get some pretty cool perks. And to you, right now, watching this video, thank you so much for spending a few minutes out of your day here with me today. You could be anywhere in the world doing absolutely anything, and it blows my mind. I'm really grateful that you spend a few minutes out of your valuable day here with me today, so thank you. I love you guys, I'm thinking about you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.
Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006. Hola, bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta, y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir. Así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación. Muchas gracias.